Well, good afternoon. This is an introduction to week number 2. Our lesson this week is entitled, What are the Strengths of Teaming for the Church? And as you noted in Moodle, that your reading for this week entails pretty much the bulk of Cladis's work leading the team-based church, pages 31 through 178. And then also Crosby's book entitled The Teaming Church, those pages that are noted on the page there in Moodle. Just as an introduction to what we're doing this week, we're looking at some of the strengths of building a team and being a teaming church. And as you will remember from your reading, or you'll find in Cladis, that there's 7 essential characteristics of successful teams. And those are basically the chapters that are listed in the part 2 there. According to Cladis, he says that successful teams covenant, they have vision, they create culture, they collaborate, they trust, they build empowerment, or they allow for empowerment, and then learning. And a very big item in teaming is this whole idea of learning. As you'll remember from Edmondson and her work, she talks a lot about that, about learning teams. Cladis structures his book around these characteristics of successful teams, and they're important in a lot of areas, but particularly within the church. As you know, the whole perichoretic concept of team leadership that Cladis builds is very much applicable into the church, more so than anywhere else. However, it's my hypothesis that that also is very valuable in the marketplace. And so I hope that you will have a good time reading the materials. Cladis talks a lot about the Apple Hill Church. It's a fictitious church that he developed to make his points. And perhaps you'll learn a lot from this church, and maybe one day you'll grow up to be the pastor of the Apple Hill Church. Cladis advocates team leaders build leaders in the church through the staff first, and then perhaps even further into the church membership of volunteers. But it is particularly in the leadership of the staff that this teaming concept of the Trinitarian view, this perichoretic view, has importance. So you may disagree somewhat with his whole perichoretic notion, but I do think that it has a lot to help us here. And if you do disagree, then share those disagreements. This course is not designed to cram something down your throat and to implant an idea into your head. It's designed to make you think about what are the principles and convictions about leadership and teaming particularly that you would employ in your church. Cladis sees the present age, this postmodern age, as being a great time to focus on team building opportunities by nature of just the way people are. He asserts that the postmodern world wants to know the heart of leadership. And I think that it's very easy to read Cladis and see how we can, as church leaders, develop a team approach to leadership. We must understand that just because we have a church that calls ministry groups, committees, doesn't mean that the whole team concept is foreign. It really doesn't matter what we call the group that's leading. It's more of what they do. It has more to do with Edmondson's whole concept of teaming as a verb and not the noun itself of describing something as a team, but it's the whole functionality of being a teaming organization, something that is doing something rather than being something. And so I hope that you'll examine that as you prepare for this. Uh, the whole strength of working in teams is that truth that uh, I don't have all the gifts, I don't have all the passions, I don't have all the insights necessary to carry out God's ministry. And if you're a pastor and you think that you have all of that, then I think that you have a lot to learn, and I hope that you'll learn it in this book. And from the whole description of the perichoretic relationship of the Godhead, I think that it's easy to see that it takes all three of the persons of the Trinity to run the universe and to provide redemption for mankind. It wasn't just one, it was all, and they all worked together. Cladis offers one sentence that might be useful at this point. It's a good word for those who are open to God's will regarding teams, but are cautious about jumping on a trendy bandwagon. He says, the children of Israel did not follow Moses because they thought he had a good idea. They followed him because they sensed that God truly sent him. And I hope that that's true in your church as you're serving, that your people sense that God has sent you there. Now, just an overview on Crosby's book. It's concerned with creating a successful team culture. He talks about great teams live and serve in light of the divine team, the Trinity. Again, that Trinitarian idea. We'll look at that a little bit more later. It's in the chapter just following what you were to read today, or for this coming week. But Crosby does suggest some innovative ways in which biblical teams reflect the workings and nature of the image of God. One of the things that he does talk about is the 4 C's of a great team: the character, the carrot, the coach, the content. And he also talks about the 4 fatal teaming errors, which I think that we could probably all identify with. The first one is when a team is undervalued. Number 2, when a team is under-challenged. Number 3, a leader who holds on to power. And then 4, a culture that is overly controlled. Now I know that most pastors would have no problem with that letting go of power and letting go of control, but some do. And I think that again, the whole model of the Trinity that we've looked at in Cladis and that you'll look at in Crosby. Also, when you think about the organization of the early church with the elders, and just the context of Scripture, we see that power is shared when it is done correctly. And so I hope that you'll draw something from that. Crosby does report on an interview with Jeff Sellers listing 6 questions that I think are good tools for learning about the teaming church. And so your assignment, your activity number 4 for this course, which in addition to responding or providing your abstracts, which is actually number 4, but this is activity number 3, for you to complete an interview with someone who you would consider a teaming leader. Interview that person using those 6 questions, and then report that, post that on the discussion board on Moodle. Now, it may be that you have a difficult time finding someone that you would truly identify as a teaming leader based on Cladis and Crosby, but do your best. You're not being graded on the fact of whether or not this person is a teaming leader or not. We're basically trying to study leadership, and we're trying to see how these people that you interview view leadership, and particularly teaming or team leadership within the church context. It could be that it's not in the church context that you find someone, and that would be okay as well, because we're talking about leadership in a teaming concept. Then the other thing that's very important for this week is to understand that your abstracts are due by the end of the week, and that's pretty simple. They're 1-page documents, open format. You can do it however you want, double space, single space, give us about an inch margin all the way around, give us a bibliographic reference on the top, and then you do whatever you want to there, because this is basically something that you're going to use for your own use in the days ahead when you go back to try to figure out what in the world was this book about, and then you'll have some notes there for yourself, and you'll upload those, and that will be 25% of your grade for the course. So you want to make sure that you do get that done. Now, some of you have had some trouble logging into Moodle. Some of you don't have your books yet. I noticed not everyone has taken the little test at the very beginning. You need to do that for the first week because the university requires that. But then also, please make sure that you've posted all of your posts, then that you've gone back and responded to at least 2 other folks. Some of them are a little late, so that maybe next week before they get that done, but then go back and look at those, because we don't want anyone to go without having someone respond to the post, because that's really how the learning process works. So I look forward to a good week as we read and as you prepare your abstracts, and I hope that all goes well. See you later. Bye.